Destiny 2 update 6.2.0. We're going to skip a lot of these, like things like UI and UX fixes, some little fixes like that. Crucible, like the load-in screen, etc. Gameplay and investment, fix an issue in survival. Were tied rounds still granted a point to one of the teams. Crucible, loose skill-based matchmaking enabled on the control playlist. Yes, there was a whole TWAB on this. Just know, starting today, skill-based matchmaking is in effect. 3v3 Crucible game modes. Special ammo will no longer refresh upon being resurrected, bringing them in line with Trials with Cyrus. Self-reviving still restocks with special ammo. Fixed an issue where Crucible streak protection message was unnecessarily displaying when joining a match in progress. Fixed an issue where the 3 birds, 3 stones triumph did not progress in all the Crucible playlists. Fixed an issue where pre-match cinematics would end before the countdown timer reached 0. Fix an issue where an opponent's nameplate would not pulse when their super is active. Rituals, fix an issue where Crucible, Gambit, and Vanguard dropped, and focus weapons could not drop with more than 3 combinations of multiple perks. They can now drop with more combinations of multiple perks for each seasonal reputation reset, up to 4. Added new Arc 3.0 bounties for Crucible, Gambit, and Vanguard. Tuned bounties with Void 3.0 status effects. Lost sectors, fix an issue where all Skydock 4 Lost Sector champions were not counting properly for scoring. Wellspring. Wellspring now uses the proper scoring during Master difficulty. Players can now earn platinum rewards based on score rather than killing champions. But in Nightfalls, we still have to kill champions in order to get platinum. Raids. Vow the Disciple. Fix an issue where the Bombardier's Hunter Exotic could break the payload route during the entrance encounter. No more payload escaping. Okay. Global changes. Fix an issue introduced in the 30th anniversary update that caused too much heavy ammo to drop when running double special weapons. Several weapon stats were previously hidden, which made fully evaluating weapons difficult. Okay, airborne effectiveness, recoil direction, zoom, aim assist are now visible on the weapon inspection screen. Good. Weapons, stasis rocket launchers, stasis grenade launchers with the perk chain reaction, dragonfly, and cluster bombs will now have cool stasis themed VFX and audio. Updated Polaris Lance catalyst requirement to be more achievable. Yeah, for some people it wasn't even progressing at all. Remove the perfect 5th kill objective entirely. It now only relies on kills by the weapon. So for those that are still trying to get the exotic catalyst for that thing, finally, right? Fix various issues where the Wishing or exotic bow would lose its true sight in certain circumstances. The shaping alloy, Drown Alloy, has been renamed to Harmonic Alloy. Dismantled weapons with deep sight will provide pattern progress if a pattern is available. Dismantled weapons with deep sight will provide 100 neutral elements. If the objective is completed and the item is dismantled or the deep sight mod extracted, 300 neutral element will be acquired. When deep sight weapon with a pattern dismantled or extracted, players will be notified via loot stream that pattern progress has been made. So we just dismantled 3 different weapons that were deep sight weapons, but no progress had been done on them. We actually got credit toward the pattern. Granted, with no progress toward them, you don't get any neutral elements. Starting in Season 18, deep sight weapons that are acquired prior to their pattern become available will no longer output pattern progress. The deep sight weapons tooltip will indicate whether a pattern is available or not. Fix an issue where One for All would grant more bonus damage than intended on grenade launchers. Fix an issue where using shoot to loot with enhanced overflow would overflow the weapon much more than intended. That's interesting. Explosive payload detonations will no longer pick up ammo via shoot to loot to prevent ammo exploits. This interaction will be re-enabled once the underlying issue has been fixed in a future patch. Moving on to weapon archetypes, these are going through our buffs. Scout rifles essentially got a buff in PvE by 10% against red bar enemies. This change is in addition to the baseline damage buff given in Solstice balance patch. High impact 360 round per minute auto rifles got a stability bump pretty much across the board. Things like Heresy 27 to 33, False Promises 17 to 29, Age of Bond 18 to 30, Rasura Mellow 13 to 25, Come to Pass 14 to 26. I had originally said that Suro's regime in its focus fire form would also get that buff. Not the case. I'd forgotten the weapon is still considered a 600 because when we had the 600 round per minute auto rifle buff years ago, Suro's benefited from that. So the game, even though it does drop to a 360 in focus fire, it's not by its code defined as a 360. So it will not receive any type of stability bump. Lightweight bows reduce base draw time by 5% from 612 to 580. They also increase the perfect draw window. Essentially, lightweight bows are going to be easier to use, which is what's been plaguing them for so long. Hand cannons, fixed dire promise and zoom stat got changed to 13 inadvertently. It's now 14 again. Glazed melee attacks can now activate the exotic armor perks for things like ACD feedback, constantly armless, necrotic grips. There's going to even be more exotics in the future that it's going to synergize with. Breach grenade launchers, concussion grenades are no longer a roll option on the magazines column. Heavy grenade launchers got an increase in damage versus majors and above by 10%, excluding parasites. The main thing is Anarchy's doing the same amount of damage that it was doing before now to champs and majors. And so this 10% buff should make it even better. Again, the biggest thing that hurts Anarchy is its ammo economy. Weapon pools updated. There's a returning weapon set, perk pools, and added an origin trait. Addressed an issue where the playlist Crucible, Gambit, and Strike weapons weren't randomizing perk counts correctly based on the number of resets. Perks! Ambitious Assassin increased magazine overflow from 10% to 20% per kill on primary weapons only. Special and heavy weapons are still 10%. Increased overflow cap from 50% to 150%. That's actually huge, man. Huge buff. Invader Tracker, Gambit Origin Trait, renamed Gun and Run, redesigned functionality to give a sprint speed increase on multi-kills. Skulking Wolf redesigned to activate on kills while at low health. Wellspring cooldown has been removed, allowing for rocket launchers, grenade launchers to return more ability energy when defeating groups with a single shot. Perpetual motion disabled audio and visual feedback on perk activation since it was triggering frequently enough to be annoying. That doesn't mean that perpetual motion doesn't still activate as often as it activates or even persists. It just means that you won't get that constant up-down time of perk activation. Lead from Gold now gives the correct amount of ammo when 2 special weapons are equipped. Concussion grenades, again, no longer rolls on breach grenade launchers. Vice Stinger fixed an issue where it was applying a charge time reduction to linear fusion rifles. It'll correctly only refill the magazine from reserves when it triggers on these weapons. Zim Moment and Particle Repeater. Updated description to say what they actually do. Exotic weapons. A lot of different weapons got champion mods. Luminarch, Overload rounds. Thunderlord, Overload. Malfeasance, Unstoppable. Also got some added airborne effectiveness. Wishender, intrinsic anti-barrier. Increased damage versus champion majors and mini bosses by 10%. It's not that I don't want to use Wishender. That's great. But we're in Arc 3.0. Trinity Goldband. That's probably where I'm going to be at. Tiku's Divination draw time decreased from 612 to 580. That's actually a very nice buff. Legend of Acris. Catalyst will now grant you Trench Barrel in addition to its other effects. Exotic paired legendary weapons. Callus Mini Tool increased airborne effectiveness. Mighty Mini Tool increased the zoom to match Callus Mini Tool. Drang increased airborne effectiveness from 21 to 23 to match the standard Drang. Sweet Business also got its airborne effectiveness bumped up. Fighting Lion, Season 17 damage increase has been re-implemented and slightly increased from 5% to now 8%. Increased the grace time for instant reload effects of Din to Her from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. I actually think Fighting Lion's going to be feeling pretty good. Reworks, Lord of Wolves, decrease starting ammo in PvP from 15 to 10. PvE unchanged. Reduce the burst size. Shots fired per trigger pool from 10 to 5, even with Release the Wolves. They also reduced the burst delay, the time between bursts, by 60% when Release the Wolves is active. So that's actually to still keep it in par. Decrease the Lord of Wolves base damage by 20%. Now does 35 per shot to the body in PvP. 44 Release the Wolves active. Increase damage in PvE by 20% to compensate. So should be feeling a lot better in PvE. Unless Release the Wolves makes Lord of Wolves completely unmanageable, even in his 5 burst pattern, I think this is going to still be good. We'll see. We'll see, man. DMT changed Cranial Spike effects. Again, Cranial Spike will no longer grant a damage buff versus players. Instead, it grants increased reload, aim assist, and range per stack. It still will grant damage inside of PvE, but upon reaching those max stacks, Cranial Spike, the Catalyst will increase hipfire by 50. It will go to a 180, but it will do reduced damage per bullet 20%. We actually did the numbers on this. It's going to have a faster TTK. The question is whether or not you're going to actually reach the max stacks of Cranial Spikes or not. I think at 6v6 is achievable. And things like 3v3 or Rumble, it's a nerf. It's all around a nerf. Collective Obligation, this got a huge buff across the board. They increased the Void Leech timer to 15 seconds of PvE activities. PvP remained at 10 seconds. Remove the Void Leech cooldown. They also added a 20% bonus, a damage bonus against PvE combatants, but only while Void Leech is active, which is not hard to do. Takes less hits to fully charge a Void Leech. You're going to get it even more often. Kills against debuff targets instantly charge Void Leech. Void Leech is also instantly charged when your character is affected by Void debuffs. Instantly charged when your own character is affected by Void debuff. Does not work if hitting yourself, though, with your own suppressor grenade. Fixed an issue where Umbral Sustenance was activating with non-void overshots. Overall, Collective Obligation, it was already really good. I mean, we were using it in GMs with the right void builds, especially like in when Witch Queen launch after the raid came out. It was good. All right, moving on to abilities. Arc subclass. reworked to fit the subclass 3.0 system. There are too many individual systematic changes to list here, but the Arc subclass now uses the aspect and fragment system used by Stasis, Void, and Solar. And yes, we've got a video going out pretty soon, if it's not out already, that goes over the fragments and aspects. Standardize a set of buffs and debuffs aligned to the Arc damage type. We have amplified. Your movement speed and weapon handling are greatly increased. After sprinting for a short time, you enter speed booster, further increasing your sprint speed and granting damage resistance against PvE combatants. By default, rapidly defeating multiple targets with arc damage will amplify you. Your equipped aspects and fragments provide additional methods to become and benefit from being amplified. Ionic Traces is a bolt of pure arc energy that travels along the ground, seeking its creator. When picked up, Ionic Traces grant grenade, melee, and class ability energy. Great for Cold Heart because that automatically creates it. Blind combatants are disoriented and cannot fire their weapons. Enemy player's HUD is removed and their vision is obscured. Jolted. The target is energized with destructive art light. As they take additional damage while jolted, they chain lightning to nearby enemies. The chain lightning can occur multiple times while a target is jolted. I don't think that's going to synergize with Dunes, huh? We're going to have to see how that works. Hovering over aspects, fragments, or abilities on the Arc subclass screen now displays a tooltip flyout detailing any relevant status effects. Some old subclass perks have been deprecated, while others have been rolled into base ability behaviors, fragments, or aspects, with some changes to the behavior as a result. All classes now have access to all arc grenades. Now, this is the big stuff. Grenades, storm grenades, total damage across 2 detonations reduced from 170 to now 120. A significant nerf, though. They did this because y'all saw the amplified storm grenades on Titan, right? With the aspect that it tracks. Improved damage area consistency under certain network conditions to fix an issue where it was dealing delayed damage. That's a good thing. So it should be more consistent. Base cooldown increased from 91 seconds to 105 seconds. So it actually got its cooldown. Lightning grenades, damage per strike reduced from 160 to 120. Holy hell. Arc bow grenades, damage reduced from 105 to 85. Base cooldown reduced from 121 to 105. So you're going to get it back faster, but it is doing less damage. Skip grenades, base cooldown increased from 105 to 121. Flashbang grenade, blind duration increased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds versus players. Pulse grenade, base cooldown increased from 105 to 121 seconds. Vortex grenade, fix an issue causing this to deal less damage than intended against PvE targets. Hunter, Arc Strider, Arc Staff now has both Whirlwind Guard block capability and Lightning Reflexes armored dodge as default behaviors. Arc Staff damage versus minor and elite combatants increased by 12.5%. All right, so we definitely need to lean into a super build more for Arc Strider. New super has also been added, Gathering Storm, where you hurl your Arc Staff forward, embedding into a surface or large targets, dealing damage and jolting nearby targets. After a short time, a devastating lightning bolt strikes the staff, overcharging with arc energy. While overcharged, your staff discharges lightning at nearby foes. Yeah, we died from that earlier. It was good. Also, Blink has been added for our Arc Hunters. Disorienting Blow now applies a short blind to nearby targets rather than a generic disorient, and also amplifies you on hits. Combination Blow now also recharges your class ability when you successfully defeat a target with this charged melee, in addition to increasing your charged melee damage. Base cooldown increase from 15 seconds to 40 seconds. I think we're still going to be able to make it work with Lyres, for sure. Tempest Strike increased travel distance from 18 to 22 meters. Holy shit. Added a small amount of initial tracking to help Tempest Strike land on close targets. It also now jolts on hits, and base damage decrease from 130 to 110. Okay. All right. Lethal Current reworked. After dodging, your next melee attack has increased range, jolts the targets, and leaves behind a damaging aftershock. Damaging a jolted target with melee attacks also blinds them. While using Arc Staff, your next attack strikes twice after dodging. Deprecated the Ebb and Flow subclass node perk. Night Stalker, Spectral Blade. Spectral Blade's damage versus minor and elite combatants increased by 33%. Titan Striker, Fist of Havoc. Now has Terminal Velocity Slam bonus as default behavior. The slam's bonus damage when activated from the air is now constant rather than variable based on your height when you activate the slam. Light attack energy cost normalized between previous top and bottom tree costs at 8%, previously 12% and 5.6%. So they just kind of met in the middle. Heavy slam radius normalized between the previous top and bottom tree costs at 7 meters, previously 8 meters to 6 meters. Okay, met in the middle again. Fist of Havoc damage versus champions, mini boss, and boss combatants increased by 25%. Damage versus minor and elite combatants increased by 40%. Previously, Fist of Havoc relied on knockout bonus damage and trample energy refunds to consistently deal with standard combatants in PvE. We like this to be better, able to stand on its own, now to partially compensate for the increased attack energy costs. Also, we have a thruster ability. Again, thruster is the dodge ability, but again, you can only use it while on the ground. We also have Thunderclap, aka Kamehameha. You hold your melee while grounded and you begin to charge your fists. Release the melee to punch forward, unleashing a large blast of force that deals additional damage the longer the melee button was held. Seismic Strike. Blind duration decreased from 5 seconds to 1.6 seconds versus players. Now, while amplified, the blinding radius is increased from 7 meters to 10 meters, and the blind duration is now increased from 3 seconds versus players. Ballistic Slam. Fix an issue where the Ballistic Slam camera could sometimes cause you to dive straight down rather than at your aim location. Yes, it does. No longer applies inertial override on hit. Unfortunate. Knockout. Defeating targets with melee attacks now also amplifies you in addition to starting your health regeneration. Knockout was proccing a lot earlier. Knockout is no longer consumed on your next melee kill. Instead, Knockout lasts for 6 seconds, after which it needs to be reactivated by breaking a bad shield or critically wounding a target. They also deprecated the Frontal Assault melee ability and the Aftershocks and Trample subclass node perks. Sentinel Shield damage versus minor and elite combatants increased by 12.5%. Oh, break out them Doom Fangs. Warlock Stormcaller. Stormtrance now has Ionic Blink and Landfall as default behaviors. Landfall Seeker damage reduced from 250 to 150. Note, while the Seekers added to the bottom tree Stormcaller in Season of the Lost were a lot of fun, they made Stormtrance more of a shutdown super than what we're comfortable with. Given that it was also a solid roaming option and now it's increased base mobility with Ionic Blink, we felt we could reduce the Seeker's damage. Stormtrance no longer increases its attack upkeep cost when targeting multiple enemies at once. Note, we believe that Stormtrance's greatest strength should be clearing hordes of enemies, and the increased cost based on target count was running counter to that intended role. Stormtrance damage versus minor and elite combatants increased by 20%. Wow, that's pretty nice. Huh? Yeah, okay. Chain Lightning. While amplified, Chain Lightning now creates 2 sets of chains, up from 1, jumping between more targets. Now also jolts your primary target. Lunge range increased from 4.5 to 5.25 meters. There we go. We're getting close to D1 again. While amplified, Chain Lightning now creates 2 sets of chains. Okay. Ball Lightning. While amplified, Ball Lightning now detonates 2 additional times for a total of 3 vertical damage strikes. Increase arming shape length below the projectile by 2 meters to resolve some edge cases where targets that the detonation area could potentially damage were not triggering the projectile to detonate. Arc Souls. Being or becoming amplified now also amplifies your Arc Souls, granting them greatly increased fire rates. Damage per projectile increased from 25 to 35 versus PvE combatants. Amplify Arc Soul projectiles per burst decreased from 6 to 5. Fire rate decreased by 10%. We expect to see significant increased uptime on supercharged Arc Souls, so we wanted to provide a bit more time between bursts where players could safely engage an enemy that has an Arc Soul in PvP activities. We hope the increased PvE damage offsets this change sufficiently, but we'll be keeping an eye out on it going forward. Deprecated the Rising Storm melee ability along with the Transcendent, Pulse Wave, and Arc Web subclass no perks. All right, and these are the different aspects that are available now for Arc, as well as the fragments. Again, we've got a video that's going out that's going over all of that. And then it gets into more detail on these things, which we probably need to read. Blink maximum displacement distance increased from 4.5 to 5.25 meters, so you can blink further now. Maximum vertical offset, how high up or down you're displaced based on your aim angle from the horizon, increased from 2 to 2.5. Increase the forgiveness of mana into ledges after exiting blink. Yeah, that's a big one. That gets me killed a lot. Energy model rework. Previously, blink charges recharge slowly one by one and could be activated at a cadence that felt inconsistent and often left players confused as how many times they had available. Now, blink has a consistent activation cost. You can carry 2 charges at once. 2.2 seconds after activating your last blink, both are immediately recharged. We've also added a screen wipe and sound effect when this occurs, similar to Icarus Dash, to help communicate when you're ready to blink again. The overall availability of blink is similar to the previous version, but we hope it's more understandable and results in a fewer instances of frustration from the energy recharge model. That's a big change and a good change. Blind. Screen shader brightness has been significantly decreased to address photosensitivity issues from the previous fully white out version. Ionic Traces no longer provides super energy on pickup. Reduce melee, grenade, and class ability energy return to compensate for expected increased uptime. Base melee energy return reduced from 20% to 12.5. Grenade 15 to 12.5. Class 25 to 15. Restoration. Fix an issue where restoration times 2 could be removed by some PvE combatant attacks and certain debuffs like overload rounds. Art focus exotic armor updates. Crown of Tempest. Conduction Tines now also activate from defeating targets with jolt damage. Getaway Artist now amplifies you in addition to granting an Arc Soul when consuming your grenade. Wow. Okay. All right, guys. Some other general changes. Main thing is Destiny 2 is now available on the Epic Game Store. That's our patch notes, dude. I think we pretty much went through everything. Wow.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.